Hi, today I'm here to talk about the false dichotomy. It's got a couple different names. It's also known as the false dilemma or black and white. Uh, I like to put a little modern spin on it, call it a red pill, blue pill, or a red team versus blue team, or true false. Uh, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's a logical fallacy. It's used in an argument to replace an actual argument, and it's done very common. It's in a lot of different things, and it's common enough that it's got its own name, a fancy name at that. Some classic examples have been you're either with us or against us, or science or religion. An example of the with us or against us, you got when Bush said, "This is time for the world to decide if you're with us, the United States, or with the terrorists." Well, what if they want to stay neutral and not get into a war with the United States or get into a war with Bin Laden? And science or religion, I understand why people say that's one or the other, but what if God is math? And we just don't understand how to look at it. It's not always black and white. It's not always true or false. Um, Sometimes the answer is not A or B. Sometimes the answer is C or D. It might even be Q. Uh, and I get a lot of people have heard of these, but aren't realizing or connecting what I'm trying to say here. But here are some modern examples that are happening right now. Wear a mask in lockdown, or you want to kill grandma. No, I don't want to hurt your grandmother. I'm just flipping the coin over here. And no, I don't necessarily think that we should just ignore all of this stuff. Maybe you just don't want to have all of your rights and freedoms taken away from you, or maybe you want to go to work to feed your children because $2,500 every 6 months isn't covering your bills. It's not necessarily hate this or love this. There's a lot of gray middle ground that we're just ignoring, and it's become very bipartisan. There's another false dichotomy. What about the libertarians, the Tea Party, the Green Party, the socialists, the communists, the independents? There's different groups besides just Republican and Democrat, red and blue. You notice how I brought that up a couple of times? The red pill, blue pill from the Matrix, and red team versus blue team from like every video game ever, first-person shooter. And look, the political parties are split up with the same colors. But I mean, here's another perfect example: is you have to pick Trump or Biden. What about the libertarians or all those other parties? If you don't vote for Biden, you hate democracy, or you're a racist, or you're whatever kind of bigot. Which, by the way, I just want to point out that racist, homophobe, transphobe, all these different, calling someone a bigot, that's the new heretic, witch, and communist. It's just used, we'll get into those later. It's an ad hominem attack, which is also a logical fallacy, which means that you're just replacing an argument with something to try to trick people that sounds logical. Well, yeah, like if you have to vote for Trump, or you hate freedom because you're looking to get locked down and have all your rights taken away from you and lose your right to own a weapon, or go outside without a mask, or have dinner with your family on Thanksgiving. Vote for Hillary, or you don't support women's rights. Well, what if I didn't want to vote for Hillary because I didn't agree with her policy, not because I hate women and I don't think the 19th Amendment should apply here? There's more than two choices. Agree with what we're saying, or be censored. Right now, YouTube is censoring a lot of people that are saying there's any chance that Trump possibly did win. Honestly, he probably did not win. Almost certainly he did not win. But it's not over yet. And I know he's saying, yes, it is, it's been decided. No, it hasn't. The delegates have not met and cast their vote yet. Biden is not the president-elect yet. Now, he's almost certainly going to be, what is the 9th now, in 5 days when the delegates do meet. But it's not over yet. There's still things that could happen, even though we did hit the safe harbor day a couple days that you can't file any new lawsuits to contest it. But the point is, it's not Biden or you're an idiot. The process isn't over yet. Now, like I said, it's very likely Biden's going to get all of those votes that we're expecting him to, but they have not been cast yet. That's something I think a lot of people don't realize is you don't technically vote for the president when you vote. Your state's delegates vote for the president. on December 14th. You get together in your different districts, and you get together and cast votes, but they're not, I guess technically they're votes, but more than anything else, you're telling your delegates how you want them to vote. Now, I believe it's Article 2 of the Constitution goes through how this entire system works, which is another reason why I keep saying we really need to read this thing versus saying, I know what it says. Because almost everyone who says they know what the Constitution says could not tell you what your Third Amendment right is. And if you don't know the Bill of Rights, you definitely don't know the Articles. But yeah, you don't cut a man's tongue out for what he has said. You cut a man's tongue out because you're afraid of what he might say. He might rile the people up against you and get people to disagree with your narrative. Censorship is always an issue, and that is always a false dichotomy. It's either we stop these people from speaking, or there will be chaos. Here's another huge one. That's a big deal that I just don't understand how people haven't been calling this one out more. Support the BLM or you're a racist. This one really bothers me because you'll bring up the evidence, not necessarily the evidence, the interviews and the speeches and the things that the leaders of these different groups, to include the entire group, have done in full-fledged support of communism. I'm not against helping black folk not be murdered. You know what I mean? But I don't want to go and give a ton of money to another organization like Me Too and watch it just disappear into someone else's pocket and never do anything to help anyone and just feel better about myself. Maybe that's why I'm not supporting this group. Maybe it's one of 100,000 other reasons. But you can't say with us or against us. You can't say support BLM or be a Nazi. I mean, Cuomo had to be told, and he was a huge BLM guy. I don't know if you remember, he put he let all the murals on the streets and everything. He had to be told by the Supreme Court of New York. Actually, I think it was the United States. I could be wrong. I should have looked that one up first. But it was definitely a Supreme Court ruling that he had to allow the Jewish people back into their worship services. That he can't tell them no. So, I mean, he's obviously not even believing this "don't be a racist bigot" if he's doing the same thing himself, which that is another fallacy we'll get into later, the hypocrisy fallacy, and I actually just did it myself. And this is why these fallacies are good to know, because you can blow apart an argument very quickly if you can point these out and say you're not making an actual argument. The problem is most people kind of accept these as logic, and it's the opposite of a good argument, and you'll never win a debate in school. And should have learned these in college. Personally, I learned them by the greatest tool mankind has ever invented, the internet. All of this information is out there. It's easy to get, and there are many reputable sources like Harvard University that publish this stuff for free. You don't have to put yourself $250,000 into debt and try to pass it off on to someone else when you can go get all this information yourself for just about free. But that's my argument. My point about the false dichotomy. We need to stop relying on it as a tool. We need to stop acting like it's Republican or Democrat, good versus evil, hate versus love, because that's not what any of this is, and you know it. I mean, the Democrats, for the most part, dislike me because I disagree with their points, and they assume that I'm a far-right, Trump-supporting Republican. Those folks don't particularly get along with me either, but at least they'll have a discussion with me about my points. But this false dichotomy is a lot of these Republicans, especially the Trumpites, put me in the left-wing group saying that I went and voted for Biden. What if I voted for Jorgensen or Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, myself? What if it was my high school earth science teacher, You don't know who I voted for, and it wasn't necessarily one or the other.